Hi everyone, this is Francisco. Anyway, so, I was just thinking about some newer approaches to generating electricity, and I was thinking, why don't we try experiments with the magnets and the coils? Because all that is happening is the magnet is interacting with the coils, or vice versa. The coils are interacting with the magnets. So I thought about an idea, and I shared it, and I posted it on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, and basically I thought about it as in liquid form. So it will be like a soluble, and either the copper will be liquefied and interact, and it'll pass through the magnets, therefore like exciting the magnets, or it'll be the magnets in liquid form and passing like in a jet stream through some coils. And you guys can do a bunch of experiments just to evaluate, just to see if it works. And I already shared this, okay, a long time ago, but I was just thinking, since everyone out there is, trying to come up with a solution to generate electricity and to make an impact, I don't think anyone has ever done this, what I'm talking about. So somehow figuring out a way to liquefy the magnets first and foremost, and then passing them in a jet stream. So yes, it will require electricity or gasoline to blast the magnet liquid through the coils. But what if it produces more electricity because the magnets are interacting with the coils, with the copper, much faster, much rapidly? Now, it might not work, but it could be tested, and then if it doesn't work, then whatever, but we will never know if we don't test it out, and at the end of the day, that's all that's really happening with windmills. It's an engine, right? A little electrical engine, and there's magnets. Well, there is a coil, and then there's magnets outside of the coils. Yeah. So the coils are spinning with wind or turbines, water or steam, and the turbine and the coils are forced to spin. And basically the copper is interacting with the magnets, and that's how we produce electricity. So think about it. That's all that's really happening at the end of the day. So if we somehow perform these new tests, maybe we will see a spike or an increase, in other words, in generating or the generation of electricity. And if it pans out, if it works, then that'd be great. Like, we will be able to come up with a lot more ideas from that. But the magnets would have to be in soluble form, soluble form, as to prevent them from adhering to one another. Like magnets. Magnets, we all know how magnets work. So they stick to one another. So obviously it would have to be in a soluble state. It would have to be somehow liquefied. And I don't know how that looks like. I don't know how that will work. I don't even know if that's possible. But anything is possible if we really look into it and investigate. But I can't guarantee that it will work. It's just a theory of mine that came to my mind. And, I shared it a long time ago. I don't know where that video's at, but I could always research it and then add it to this video. I also thought about, it reminds me of this other generator idea that I thought about that will technically generate electricity with light interacting with the metals. Okay? And I know it sounds kind of weird, or like I'm just making this up, but the best way that I can illustrate this picture in people's minds is like, when your screen is buffering and then you guys see that little circle spinning around. Well, there's other ones that travel from left to right or right to left. And technically, with the internet, with screens, we can make that travel at any speed. So that's pretty much what I'm talking about. So it's practically free energy. And I believe that it can be converted, that energy can be utilized, and to convert it into like electricity. But that's more of a futuristic type of experiment. And if the monitors don't work, if the monitors don't work, then what we're going to have to do is use copper itself to radiate its light, or the magnets radiating its light. Either way, however, or any other type of metal or crystal, or different types of crystals, that or just any type of light source will work as well. So it's just how it's rigged up. That will make the difference. See, but this is like the things that I'm talking about. Because it's moving, and it doesn't require any moving parts, like any mechanical parts. It's all digital. And obviously, instead of this type of thing that is spinning in a circle, it will basically move from left to right. And there's some that go like this. So it'll just be like jet streams, and it will be equivalent to the Faraday flashlight, the magnet going this way and then going this way. And that's all it does, right? But what does it require? It requires us to shake it. The battery, the flashlight, we have to shake it. And then we could turn on the light bulb. And then that's when we get the light. So with the light traveling, it'll basically interact with the metals and therefore produce electricity. And I don't know how we can actually we just have to perform a bunch of experiments, to say the least, because there's so many possibilities, right? There's so many metals out there. There's different ways of different approaches. And it's all about playing around with that. Playing around with it until we see a reaction. And all this is a piece of glass. So technically something could be on here like this. This is a copper wire with a protective the sleeve, this prevents us from getting shocked. Anyways, so imagine if the protective thing wasn't on there. And then this thing was interacting. The light was interacting with the copper wire. Um, but there has to be a way where the way I can envision it is the light or the laser will cause the magnet to adhere. So it will basically levitate on top of the glass, looking at it from the bottom up of the phone. Bottom up of the phone. And as the light travels, the magnets would travel with it. So it would be similar to us going like this, like on a table with magnets, right? One at the bottom, one at the top. Especially a glass table so we can see it visually, right? But with this idea, it could basically travel at the speed of light. You know, we can only do it so fast. Back and forth, back and forth. In today's time and age, we want more electricity. We require more electricity for like the demand, you know, to meet up to the demand that we need. Because in today's time and age, we use more electricity, obviously, than in the past. So it would have to therefore produce more electricity to meet today's demand for the electricity that we need, right? That we require. So that's my theory, and a lot of experiments can be done, performed with this approach in mind. And I also seen a light just hitting a flat strand of coil, and it producing electricity from that. But like I said, we would have to experiment and test it out and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Just like Edison with the light bulb, and writing everything down. What works? What doesn't work? If something works, why does it work? If something doesn't work, why doesn't it work? And therefore, that will increase our understanding and knowledge regarding that one specific invention, idea, right? So that's all we would have to do. And obviously, I don't have the money to experiment on these ideas, but I know that some of you out there do have the money and the resources and the help and the knowledge and all that stuff. It's basically like a chemical reaction that's going on. That's all that's happening. The magnets are interacting with the copper. The copper is interacting with the magnets. That's all that's going on. There's some excitement, energy there. It's like compost. I was watching this one video about composting. This lady, she put a lot of fruits and leaves and a bunch of other garden stuff in a pile. And she stated that over time, it produces a bunch of heat and a bunch of gas. So there's a chemical reaction there. And, if that's the case, then we can technically produce electricity from that as well. And I know a lot of you already know that, but I was thinking, what if we were able to do exactly that, but with other bacteria in this life? What if somehow we were able to concentrate a living organism or organisms in one specific area to generate electricity from that source? Similar to like worms or other insects and bugs that live underground, or like bees, like a nest of bees. Because, okay, you might ask me, well, how would you expect to generate electricity from bees? Well, bees, first and foremost, bees have, their wings, and they buzz, right? Bzzz. You guys hear that energy, right? You guys hear those wavelengths. So all it would have to, all that would be required for us to do would be to to add like guitar strings in their nest all throughout that area. And eventually that buzzing sound will be transmitted into the guitar strings, and that those wave frequencies can produce electricity. You know what I mean? So that's one way to utilize a real live situation with with bugs. In this case, flying object bugs, which are bees, in the form of wavelengths within their nest, as an example. Now, I haven't even got to all the other possibilities. And then if that works, I haven't even got into the scale of it. The scaling of this bee nest, this wasp nest, whatever the case may be. Well, I did say bees. There's also flies. There's a bunch of other things out there. Okay, but and it not just that, but it doesn't require much to keep them alive. And not just that, but if it works, it will not only be good and beneficial for us because of the electricity they produce, but also the honey that they produce for us. And it would just be a matter of us attending to them. But I'm not talking about out in the open and the elements where they can pose a threat to other people. I'm talking about in a facility, in a building, away from people, with no human interaction whatsoever. They will be confined. Basically, they will be locked up and they will do life within this confinement. And we can design it. I could design it. So it'll be self-cleaned. Because I know why. The reasons why. So it'll be self-cleaned. They will do all the work of cleaning it, maintaining it. And all we would need will be us feeding them and tending after them. Well, no, just feeding them. Just providing them with the nutrients to live, to thrive. That's it. Then they'll just buzz all day. Bzzz, and all that. So basically, it's like my light. My light idea, generator idea. So what's stopping us from just using sound waves then from a soundtrack? Now that I think about it, because we can go through all the ordeal, this whole facility of maintaining literally billions of bees in one building, one confinement. But what good would that do if we could just use a radio and basically practically getting the best possible soundtrack to produce the optimal amount of wavelengths that will interact with the guitar strings to produce electricity as they vibrate. Bzzz. Mm. I know you people out there understand what I'm talking about. That's exactly why Nikola Tesla was talking about, producing electricity freely. Yeah, he talked about producing electricity freely in the form of static electricity, right? That's why he was always fucking around with his that's why he was always like playing around with the static electricity. And then that's when he designed and built that tower with the static electricity dome. And he wanted to build them throughout the world. And basically they were going to be wireless. They would basically transmit electricity wirelessly. It's loud out here. These birds. But that was his theory. And it wasn't just a theory. He actually built one of these things. But maybe they didn't really understand all the logic behind it. So